Let's take a look at how image mapping works. So first of all, we're just going to create a very low poly model here, and really it doesn't matter what you create. I'm going to create a very simple sword, so I'm going to scale this in, scale it a little bit wider that way, do a ring cut on it, 2 ring cuts, scale this bit out along the x-axis, so that's going to kind of be our hilt. I might grab these 2 edges and bring them up a little bit, these 2 as well, bring them up a little bit more, and then for the blade I'm going to add in another shape. And I could do this as separate objects, or I could do it all as one. I'm going to use a cube. I'll scale that down to there, scale it along the x-axis, scale it along the y a bit, scale it along the z, move it up till it sits like that, and then do some ring cuts along here, probably underneath the 1, bring it up to here, maybe 1 more there, and then apply a modifier to this. Ooh, I don't want to do it on the whole thing. So, oops, didn't mean to do that. Go back into there. I will do it as a separate object. Add mesh cube, edit that. And scale it that way. And I'll add a subdivision surface to it. Now with this subdivision surface, I'm going to do a ring cut on it and bring it down to the bottom so it gets that edge, and then I'll do a ring cut on it and kind of bring it up to the top. And then lastly, I will add in a cylinder. I'll apply that, by the way. Don't need it to be not applied anymore. Add mesh cylinder with 6 faces. Ooh, not 546, 6 faces. Scale that down, increase it on the x-axis. Don't actually mind that it sits there a little bit, that looks kind of cool. I'll scale it down a little bit more on the x. And lastly, add mesh an icosphere with 1 subdivision. Scale that down and put that at the bottom. I'm not liking the size of that, so I will bring that like that. Okay, so here's my little low poly sword. Okay, this could be considered a small asset in the assessment task, but what I want to do is I want to apply an image map to this so that when I bring it into another program and apply a material to it, such as Roblox, it picks up where I've mapped everything to on the image. Now we don't need to do materials for this. You may have done materials before. We don't need that for this here. All we need is to switch this into texture mode, hit N, turn on shadeless, and then you could hit N again to get rid of that, open up another window here. And then from there we're going to change that to UV image editor, and we're going to open an image. Now I'm going to give you this image, and it's called Color Palette. It's just a random thing I downloaded off the internet. Your one that you actually make will be similar to this, I suppose, but you're going to be limited to 16 colors, so you have a 4x4 grid. Now what I've done here is I am going to actually unwrap this whole model. So to unwrap this, first of all, I'll just do each part separately. So what I'm going to do is unwrap this bit here. To do that, I can hit L to select everything that's linked to that particular face. And then I can just go U, unwrap. That looks really hideous because it's unwrapped the whole thing everywhere. But I can just scale this down and move it to where I want it to go. But let's say I want some of these faces to be a different color, the faces around the outside. Well, I can get that. Select those. Select them on the other side as well, and hit U and unwrap those. I get this funny shape, doesn't matter. I'm just going to scale it down really tiny anyway, because I'm just using solid colors. Then I get that shape around there. Now this one here, I'll select the whole thing, U, unwrap, scale this down. I'm going to make this an orange color, so I'll pop that there. The handle, U, unwrap, scale it down, hit G, throw it over there, and then lastly, tab U, unwrap, scale this down, and I'm going to throw it on that green bit. So I don't actually like that little red bit there now. There we go, that's better. So I've got my model here. I could go ahead and maybe I actually want to have the top of this unwrapped slightly different. So you unwrap that, scale it down, and I want to have that as a darker orange, like that there. And the bit underneath I want to have as a different part. Or on this face, on this object down here, if I isolate that, maybe I would like to have every, it's not really possible to have every second face, but there's different colors of green that I've got there, so why not, let's use a few different colors. So I can just, they're already unwrapped, I'll move that one to there, and let's grab a few other colors, try and not grab ones right next to each other. Move them up to there. Okay, so I've got like a little gem at the bottom of that. Maybe in here I could grab some of these here and change it to a darker grey. And same on this side. Cool. These ones down here I'll change to a darker grey, but not quite as dark. We'll go there. Okay, so I've got some shading happening now, and on this side, okay, so there I've got that mapped all properly. So what you want to do, what you want to practice is unwrapping these. There are different methods to unwrap. For example, I'll do a tree. I'm just going to join all of this together now, by the way. Control J, join it all together, move it to the side. Now I'm going to add a new object. Shift S will set my cursor back to the center, and I'm going to add a new mesh. This time I'm going to do it all as one object. So what I'm going to do is add in a cylinder. What kind of cylinder is that? Oh, I see. I'll make it with 7 sides, and I might just turn the shading back on. So I can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm going to make the Christmas tree because it's pretty easy to do so, and we can practice over here. I've got all the colors for it. So E, S, scale it up, scale it in. E, S, scale it out, scale it up, scale it in. E, S, scale it out, scale. Actually, I'm sick of making that tree. Let's do a different one. Add, mesh, cylinder, and we'll do it this way. So I can extrude that up, I'll scale it in, extrude it up, scale it in, extrude it up, add a few different ring cuts to it. I can shift them in certain ways. Ooh, it's looking a bit naff, but it's alright. I think it'll be okay. I'm not sure why that's gone completely black on the top there. Oh, texture mode, which is full solid, so if it doesn't have a light source then it can't see it, so I will turn on shadeless. I might subdivide. I'll just extrude some of these bits out here. And same on this side, extrude, put up. This is probably not the best way to make a tree, but it's a bit more interesting than doing it the other way again and again. And then this one, extrude, bring it up, scale it in, extrude, bring it up, scale it in. Okay, so I've got a little bit of a tree branch here, and then what I'll do is I'll just unwrap this whole thing. Unwrap, scale it down, put it on the orangey brown area. So that's looking pretty good. I've got ambient occlusion turned on just because it makes it a bit easier to see when it's shadeless. You can turn the strength of it up. It doesn't take up really any processing power. The shapes. So I'm going to have mesh. Icosphere is pretty good for this, and I'm going to have the icosphere with 2 subdivisions. And really, I just want to have one big massive one here. Scale that like that. Bring it up a bit higher. That looks pretty good. That was Control-Alt-Q to put it in that mode. I'll go into edit mode and unwrap this, and it goes into all these little tries, which I can then just throw down here. So from here, if I turn off shadeless, well, it's got that shading on it, but if I go over here, you can see it's got the little low poly shading. I'll turn that back on. And then really I just want to duplicate this, and move it and scale it down to different sizes. Duplicate, move it. That's pretty good there. Scale it to different sizes. Duplicate it over here. And duplicate. To like that. So there I've got I'm not really a fan of that. I would have to think about that a little bit more, try to get it looking a little bit better. There's plenty of good looking low poly trees. I'm not 100% sure on this. It looks no. But I could then go into here and, like I did before, pick a bunch of these and move it to a slightly different green color. Ooh, that's a bit too different. Or maybe move the whole thing to a slightly different green color. And same with this one. And this one. And this one. And this one. And that one's probably too green for what I want, so I go there. Okay, so I've got a little low poly tree that's mapped to a single texture, but I've got multiple colors on it. Notice I haven't used a single material. Okay, if I put it in material mode and try to render it, it's not going to show up anything. Okay, this really is just for game development because I can go File, Export from here. I can import it into Roblox. I can select the texture map I want to use, and it will work. We'll look at that in another video.